Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Okay, today we're stepping into the ring, so to speak. We're going to wrestle with, well, a real paradox in modern sports. Floyd Mayweather Jr., everyone agrees he's a technical genius, maybe one of the best defensive fighters ever.
No question. His skill is undeniable.
But at the same time, a huge chunk of people watching him fight just find him, they call him boring.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You reach the peak undefeated, and that's the label you get. So what are people actually saying when they use that word boring? What's the substance behind it, according to the sources?
Well, it seems to come down to perceived inactivity, not taking risks.
Right.
They say he doesn't initiate attacks, avoids mixing it up. He's just focused on surviving, setting traps, holding, even running sometimes.
So a spoiler, that's the term they use. Or even worse, a thief in the night.
Yeah, like he steals the victory without putting on the expected show.
And look, this isn't exactly a new complaint in boxing history, is it? This tension. Spectacle versus science.
Yeah.
It's been there forever.
Oh, definitely. You mentioned Ezzard Charles before, right?
Yeah.
After Joe Louis.
Exactly. Louis was the big puncher, the knockout king. Charles comes along, technically brilliant, defensive master.
And the crowds just didn't warm to him in the same way.
Not at all. There's that famous story, isn't there? A newspaper guy covering one of Charles's fights.
Oh, yeah, I read about this. He left the first few columns of his report completely blank.
He did. Just empty space to show, his frustration with the lack of action. Talk about a harsh review.
Wow. That really cuts deep. It kind of forces the big question we're digging into today, doesn't it?
It does. If boxing is primarily entertainment, a spectacle, what does the fighter actually owe the crowd?
Right, versus what they owe themselves, their own safety, their health, their career longevity.
Where does that balance lie? And maybe how much of these preferred styles are culturally influenced?
Okay, so we've basically got two competing viewpoints emerging from the sources here.
That's right.
On one hand, you've got the demand for knockouts, for constant aggression. People want to see fighters get hurt almost.
Yeah.
That real visceral thrill.
Like those Gaddy versus Ward fights back in the early 2000s. Pure slugfests. Absolutely electrifying, brutal stuff.
Exactly. That raw spectacle. But then on the other side,
you have the purists, the aficionados, the ones who talk about boxing as the sweet science.
The sweet science? It sounds almost old-fashioned now, the giant pay-per-views and all that. Where does that idea actually come from?
Oh, it goes way back. Deep roots. Think 18th century England, James Figg's Academy.
For gentlemen? Really?
Yeah. It was pitched as a school of self-defense. Almost like fencing, but with fists. The whole point was technique control, not just, brawling.
Okay, so it starts there. But who really brought that defensive mindset into the ring as a winning strategy?
That'd be Daniel Mendoza. He was a game changer.
How so?
Well, Mendoza was known for beating bigger, stronger opponents, not by slugging it out, but by outthinking them, outmoving them.
Oh.
He introduced specific tactics. Sidestepping, ducking, using a proper defensive guard. He basically proved that boxing could be about science, about geometry and timing, not just raw power.
So if you buy into that whole science over savagery idea,
then Mayweather, with that incredible undefeated record, well, he's arguably the ultimate modern example of it, isn't he? Proof is in the results.
His record speaks for itself. And his skill. People describe it in almost artistic terms.
They do. Balletic is a word that comes up. It suggests grace, but also really meticulous control. His defense isn't just reactive, it's like a symphony of movement. Precise footwork, pivoting just right, and of course the famous shoulder roll.
Right, the shoulder roll. We hear about it all the time. But for someone listening who maybe doesn't watch every fight, what is that exactly? What makes it so effective?
It's actually quite sophisticated. It's not just leaning away. It's a variation of the old Philly shell defense.
Okay.
So Mayweather turns slightly, tucks his chin behind his lead shoulder, his left one, keeps the right hand up high by his face.
Got it.
Now, when an opponent throws a punch, say a right hand or a hook, he doesn't just block it with his glove. He uses the rotation of his torso and that hard point of his shoulder to deflect the blow. It glances off.
So using their force against them.
Exactly. And because he only rotates a little bit, his head stays steady, his eyes are on the opponent, and his hands are instantly free to counter.
So it's defense and offense at the same time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
His left hand might be low, ready for a quick hook, or like in that fight against Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
He deflected Canelo's right hand with the shoulder roll and immediately fired back his own super accurate right hand. It's active, it's calculated, it's all about anticipation and angles, not passive at all.
That makes sense. And it leads to this bigger idea, right, where the whole boring label gets really tricky. There's guys like Mayweather. It's not just about not getting hit.
No, there's an aesthetic to it, a philosophy almost, making the opponent kind of beat themselves.
How do you mean?
It's about control. For fighters in this defensive tradition, Mayweather, Jack Johnson, Muhammad Ali, the goal isn't just to win. It's often about delivering what some call an ass whipping, but where the beauty is in how effortless it looks.
Effortless domination.
Exactly. You outsmart them, you frustrate them, you make them miss, and you make it look easy, almost like you're schooling them. There's a certain cool detachment to it.
You really see that with Ali, don't you? Especially the rumble in the jungle against Foreman in '74.
Oh, absolutely. That fight is legendary for this reason. Ali talked about it like he was creating a masterpiece.
Right.
He didn't just take Foreman's punches, he orchestrated Foreman's breakdown. He floated around early on, the butterfly stuff. Then he went to the ropes.
The rope-a-dope.
The famous rope-a-dope. And he just let Foreman punch himself out, blocking, absorbing, making it seem like the punches weren't hurting him at all. Calculated psychological warfare.
It was pure theater. And that detail at the end, that's incredible.
Isn't it? When Foreman was completely spent, just physically collapsing, Ali apparently had another big punch loaded up.
But he held back.
He held it back. Said he didn't want to, quote, spoil the natural gravitational trajectory of Foreman falling. He had already won. The victory was in the exhaustion, the mental collapse he engineered.
Wow, that's something else. And this idea of fighting slick, winning with style, outthinking the opponent, that seems like a really strong thread in Black American boxing history.
Oh, definitely. While the roots of scientific boxing go back to guys like Mendoza, you see Black American fighters really develop and refine a particular style, emphasizing defense, rhythm, improvisation, often as a means of control in hostile environments.
You see it in guys like
Joe Gons, way back, Tiger Flowers, Jersey Joe Walcott, who was incredibly slick, and then, of course, the Sugar Rays Robinson and Leonard, masters of hitting and not getting hit. Being untouchable was prized.
And this focus on staying composed, looking graceful, even under intense pressure, that connects to something deeper culturally, doesn't it?
It does. You can link it to the West African aesthetic concept of cool. In Yoruba culture, there's the idea of Itutu.
Itutu.
Yeah. It emphasizes maintaining grace, composure, looking unruffled, especially when things are tough, whether it's in dance, social situations, or combat. Think about Mayweather in the ring. He rarely looks panicked or even like he's breathing hard. That composure, that cool control is part of that lineage.
So from that perspective, defensive skill is like a high art form. But okay, let's shift gears a bit because there are tougher sides to this. The socio-political stuff, the health realities that shape these styles too. Jack Johnson comes to mind.
Right. Johnson's defensive brilliance wasn't just a stylistic choice. It was partly about survival in a deeply racist era.
How so?
Well, his style was shaped early on fighting in those brutal battle royals. But later, as a pro, knocking out his white opponents too quickly or too decisively, that could actually hurt his career.
Hurt his career.
It was often seen as detrimental to business, as one source puts it. Promoters might get nervous, white audiences might stop coming, or worse, it could incite violence.
So sometimes he actually had to pull his punches, extend the fight.
Yeah, the term used is carry them. Drag it out to make it look competitive, just to keep working, to stay safe.
Yeah.
It puts a whole different spin on accusations of running or stalling, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't just tactics. It was like necessary politics.
For decades, for many black fighters, defense wasn't just preferred. It was an economic and physical necessity. And that history feeds directly into the modern debate, especially when you hear someone like Bernard Hopkins talk about it.
Yeah, Hopkins has some really strong takes on this. He basically argued, quite controversially, that when people constantly criticize defensive fighters like him or Mayweather, it could actually be a way of sidelining black fighters. If the networks and promoters only want to pay for slugfests, they might end up undervaluing the very skills that many black boxers have traditionally excelled at.
It's a really provocative point about market incentives, isn't it? He's asking. If the money only rewards taking punishment, what message does that send about valuing the fighter's long-term health?
And his core message is pretty stark. There is no valor in getting hit.
That's the crux of it for defensive proponents. Those exciting back-and-forth wars, the Gaddy Ward kind of fights. They make for great TV, maybe, but they often lead to short careers and serious health problems down the line.
Whereas defensive mastery allows for longevity. You can stay in the game longer and hopefully leave it healthier.
Exactly. And this is where Mayweather's specific skills become so important, even when compared to historical greats like Jack Johnson.
How do they differ? I remember hearing Mike Tyson had an opinion on that.
Yeah, Tyson apparently thought Johnson, for all his skill, might stank the house out today because his style involved a lot of clinching, tying up, slowing things right down.
Okay, so Mayweather's different.
Completely different tempo. Mayweather's defense doesn't require him to constantly run or clinch. He uses feints, that shoulder roll, incredible footwork to create tiny moments, tiny spaces.
And then explodes.
Right. He can unleash those incredibly fast combinations from inside in really tight quarters and then slip away again before the opponent can respond. It's defense enabling offense in a very dynamic way. It's an evolution.
Although he did sometimes seem to deviate from that pure defensive style, didn't he? Fights like Shane Mosley in 2010 or Miguel Cotto in 2012.
Yeah.
He seemed to stand and trade a bit more.
He did, and maybe that shows the pull, the entertainer versus the pure technician. But who was always in his corner pushing back against that?
His father, Floyd Sr., the guy who taught him that defensive style in the first place.
Exactly. The sources say his father would be vehemently protesting when Floyd Jr. started mixing it up too much, pushing him back to the style that ensures he never gets hit. That was the priority for Team Mayweather. Win, stay undefeated, stay healthy, get paid. The spectacle was secondary to preservation and perfection.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We have these two fundamental views of boxing. The brutal, raw spectacle versus this refined, almost cerebral, sweet science. How does Mayweather fit into that clash?
Well, for those who appreciate the science, the skill, the technique, Mayweather represents a kind of peak. It's high-level physical and mental chess.
Right.
His fights might suspend that raw, elemental violence that some crave, but they replace it with this display of meticulous craft, of near-perfect execution. It's maybe like the difference between watching a controlled demolition versus watching intricate architecture being built.
One is immediate destruction, the other is about precision and design.
You could put it that way. It's maybe sacrificing that instant bloody thrill for a demonstration of flawless, sustained skill over time.
Okay, so that leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to kind of chew on.
Yeah, something to consider. If the boxing market consistently labels a style that promotes longevity and minimizes brain trauma as boring,
while rewarding styles that often lead to fighters getting badly hurt.
what does that really say about what we as a society or as fans truly value? Is it the athlete's long-term well-being and the artistry of their craft, or is it just the momentary thrill of watching them endure punishment?